L baby. Well, your video was interesting, and in some ways eye-opening. I don't think you could have written me any instant message or email that would have conveyed as much emotion and feeling.
I'm glad there was something eye-opening for you about the video. I completely agree that the video can be a strong sensory tool, facial expressions, and the inflection voice.
Although I can't say that I'm happy that it's out there in public forum.
I don't see why you'd be unhappy about this being out there on public forum.
Although I can't say I'm happy that it's out there.
We are publicly inundated with things that are far worse and with corrupt intentions.
I had assumed we had a personal and private relationship.
We do have a personal and private relationship. This forum is media. You're right. It's not our relationship.
I guess I'm too old to understand the use of this type of media.
It's ironic that you would say you're too old for an important part of what's happening with the youth today.
I do appreciate my lack of name and would ask a personal favor, if you intend to post more of these, that all names are left out or changed. You know, the old dragnet approach. The names have to be changed to protect the guilty.
Of course, my dear. Of course, my dear. Our point here in the sex industry is to profit. We don't care about other people's names, their story, any further than just cashing out on the come of it all. It's okay. Let's just call you, John.
Yes, I'm guilty of all that you say. I'm guilty of giving money for exchange of favors. I just don't see it as wrong as you do.
I'm not that black and white on the subject.
I see that type of exchange in my everyday life, in business, and in 100% of the relationships that I witness. Sure, some have a wedding certificate attached, but the exchange is so basically the same. It's just not as obvious and in your face.
Well, see, here's the crux of the problem. Well, you know you are guilty and you have no healthy representation of a relationship with a woman in your life. I mean, 100% of the relationships that you witness, you could chalk up to being equal to the relationship you have by hiring uneducated prostitute. I feel like that's really sad for you.
I see so many women use sex in exchange for money, gifts, vacations, a new car, emotional support. I just see men pay for the same. Many of the women might not even know that they're doing it, but they are. I have seen emotional currency used for far worse than dollars. And I've seen it scar men's, women's hearts and brains far older than 25. And I've seen it change lives forever. I've seen it make a life, and I've seen it take it away. Sex is a dangerous drug, perhaps the most powerful. I've seen it used, dispensed, and abused like one.
I think most people have seen sex used. I mean, it's everywhere. All you have to do is absorb yourself with something of the likes of Jerry Springer. That's in the Chicago area, right? And hopefully, you've seen as much as you need to after one episode. But maybe not. Lots of things can be compared to a dangerous drug.
Sex is not a dangerous drug.
Sex is not a dangerous drug.
Sex is not a dangerous drug. You are using it that way. You are using it that way.
It's possible you may have a problem of addiction with this activity, which may hinder your ability to have adult relationships.
We are not so perfect as human creatures.
That's definitely an opinion, and depends what you think a perfect human is. If you see imperfection in the creatures that we are, what do you think perfectly that we should be?
We have messed up our lives, our emotions, with so many rules, customs, and conditions of what is right and wrong, and how much they vary from location to location.
That sounds very general and like a broad observation. Are you having a problem knowing the difference between right and wrong within the rules and customs and conditions in different locations? Is that how you know right and wrong? Through rules, customs, and conditions? Generally speaking, I think right and wrong is found within the knowledge of a certain topic.
You are 100% correct that up north we could never have this type of activity going on.
But this activity does go on up north, and it's frowned upon. What's different is the social economic system here, which puts you in a better position to take advantage of these girls.
A town like Hako could never exist here.
A town like this does exist there. It's called Las Vegas. A town like this
the city of sin does exist there. It's called Las Vegas. Yeah, it's not the same. Yeah, I know it's not exactly the same, but those people are already corrupt and they're your people. Not fair to blame a town, but you get the point, I hope. Yeah, it's not fair to blame Jaco. Jaco was just a sleepy little beach town only 20 years ago. I say if you're going to blame someone, look at the demand that's created this service from the Costa Rican girls. But unfortunately, I need to tell you, and so many do exist, and they serve a purpose in this world. And I'm glad they do exist. They just don't exist, like popping out of air for your entertainment. I'm also glad I live so far from it. So you'd like to help create the problem, but the garbage you create is better left in another country. Well, you certainly don't want to live with disgusting debauchery or the result of your actions. As for me, it's only an escape. This may be the most disturbing portion of your letter. Well, hopefully one day this world gets too small that you can't find little pockets where you can go privately traffic young girls. A place not based in reality. It's not an escape. This is a reality, maybe more real than the place of illusion where you're from. A place where a guy like me, with all his physical defects, as you pointed out, can have a pretty girl. First of all, you can't have a girl. Your language shouldn't have ownership. It's a fantasy land. This is totally not fantasy land. This is the country of the Costa Rican people. And to know it exists in the world gives a guy like me a sense of peace when I return home. Maybe peace is not the right word. Peace is not the right word. More like, I can have all I want if I work hard enough. If only for a few days, but those are wonderful days. Second of all, it doesn't matter what you look like. You're waving a wad of money around to the poor. You don't have all you want because you work hard enough. You have what you do because you're a white fat man from Chicago who has the whereabouts to organize money. Many people work harder than you for less, and they don't travel to fuck little girls in different countries. Look, you being so attractive your whole life, you probably can't understand part of this equation. Whoa! You being a woman also puts things on a different spin. Whoa! What part of the equation can't I understand? My appearance doesn't hinder my ability to feel compassion and have understanding. My interest in human rights is not because I'm a woman. Maybe the women that you're involved with use their appearance as the primary way to make their money. But others are working towards skill and education that can further our vocabulary in society. Look, I know I'm never going to marry one of these girls. Bring her home to the States, dress her all up fancy and walk into the country club. Just as I know they're never going to invite me to their cousin Quinceanta. It's an understanding. It's an unwritten rule. It's a part of it. Don't try and make more of it than it is. Well, that's your story. But some men do marry them and take them back to live in the States. When you say dress her up and take her to your country club, I guess you're referring to the fact that others in the community of yours will judge you. So the girls aren't good enough for your kind, but they're good enough to fuck in secret? You know, I bet she would invite you to her family gatherings if you were the type to make a commitment to what you were doing. I used to call it with a friend in Colombia. I was her dirty little secret. By the way, she's 37. Your friend from Colombia was playing with you for money, giving you what she thought you wanted. I'm sure she had her share of messed up things too. I realize that for you, it must be much more difficult, as it's in your face every day, 24/7. You have to see it each weekend at the bars and restaurants. Well, I don't get to the bars and restaurants often, but I do see my share of old, wrinkly white faces and young, dark, pretty girls. It looks kind of sad and transparent. In all their years, don't these men know that everyone on the street can see that they have to pay for sex? And he's kind of infringed his desires and inadequacies on a young, impressionable mind. Another group of ugly Americans coming here for a sex trip. You began to allude to this in your video, but your anger and contempt for me clouded your thoughts and pushed you away. I don't know if you remember this. But way back, when we were renting houses, I asked a very direct question. How can you sit and watch this crazy stuff day in and day out? Doesn't it take a toll on you? When you asked me that, I was being polite and reeling from what I witnessed from your group. I was being polite. I didn't see that crap day in and day out. It took me one viewing to be totally brokenhearted and revolted. Your response was, yes, but the money is good. Yes, I did repeat the money was good. Many of the biggest money makers are the least productive or kind to society. Strange how you repeated how good the money was in your video, and in the end you had to give it up due to the price that you were paying. I went on to ask if this is going to bother you in the end. Why Hako? There's so many other beach towns where it's not so open and notorious.
Hako was a part of my life long before it was inundated with whoremongers.
I don't recall your answer. For me, the age thing is important. I set my guide at 21 and thought it was the lowest age that anyone should be in this game. I have insisted that my friends play by the same rule, and it's cost me a friend a few years back. I stopped staying at a certain hotel in Hako because the owner did not agree with this rule, and he kept breaking it while I was a guest, so I left. If you believe that having sex with little girls is wrong, why didn't you call the police on the abuser and the owner of the hotel? You are an accomplice. So you just moved to another hotel? So you didn't do or say anything to help these girls? Oh, maybe you could have taken out your phone to take a picture. Perhaps you have the research on your side, and I need to adjust that age to 25. But as I mentioned in prior messages, 23 was what I thought they were.
Well, obviously the age thing is important to you. You get older and they don't.
What makes you think that 21 is a good age that girls should fuck for money? You care more for your comfort level rather than the lives of these young girls. Well, I think you do need to change that to 25, but there's more. Chronological age. There's no biological switch that just turns on when you become an adult. I know the new girl looks young, fresh as you called it, and she is. No matter what happens within the brain, the body will age, and that's not an accomplishment within the mind. What is an adult?
You may determine an adult by the maturity they have.
Look, if you want to know the story, here it is. We met in a restaurant by the airport. She was there with a girlfriend who is not so obvious, but you could tell she was a working girl. She is, and I would say to this day really is not.
Well, you can tell she's a working girl because you're on the scope and looking for one.
Not all men look for opportunity in young girls when they arrive. Are you telling me you pay for sex with her, but you don't think she's prostituting?
This is really poor judgment. She's not a prostitute, but you're making her into one?
She's not a prostitute, but you're making her into one? Do you think she's better younger, cleaner, and unscathed? Her requests of cash from me to this date have been far less than any working girl, and much more in line with the 99% of the girlfriends I have had in my life. All my girlfriends, at one time or another, have needed help.
So you give money to your female friends at home and you think that's comparable? You don't get it. You don't think she can read you?
And whether they ask for it or not, I volunteer it. I have just given it. This is who I am. That's just who I am. If the women that you know in the U.S. need financial help and you are buying things and giving them money to help them, maybe you're putting yourself in the position where you're buying your relationships. Understand, if you pay somebody to survive, you will never have an honest relationship because you are always buying yourself a yes man. Their actions aren't completely sincere as much as they will compromise for survival. With this one, I started with a simple conversation and then an invitation. No pressure, no promises, and the agreement she could leave at any time she wanted. 100% free will. And you don't know that she has free will with what she's doing with you. I bet if I gave her $10,000 an hour before she met you, her free will would be very different. And to be honest, I have freely given her more than her request. In return, she brought me a very nice gift. Of course you give her more money when she's shy about price. Quite frankly, it serves you, and it's really nothing to you. I mean, it's all replaceable. They're all not like Vivian. Of course they're not all like Vivian. You can find them less fucked up and then teach them about that hole. You need to understand, what you saw that night was a conversation through a window. You might have thought you knew what was going on, but you could not completely hear the conversation. You do not exactly have your facts correct. I have no idea what night or what window or what conversation you're talking about. As for me giving her a wad of money, it's an expression of trust. It's very important to me. Okay, that's not what trust is. I know exactly how much was in that wad, and I know exactly what she was buying, and approximately what it would cost. Okay, that's not what trust is. Well, in that case, it's obvious that you're testing her.
Testing her isn't a show of trust. When you test her, it means that you don't trust her. And so you're testing her to see if she can be trusted. But the thing that you're not seeing is she has to trust you. She's putting herself in a very dangerous position. And it's tactically manipulative to hand a poor person a wad of cash so that they can go buy a set of earrings. It's ostentatious and disregarding to the people of the environment that you're in. We went to town to buy her one item and one item only. There were no missing 20s. Please, I'm not an idiot. A lot has changed for me since you and I first met. I did think you changed. I saw you looking more healthy and losing weight over the past few years. I saw on Facebook that you were eating better and interested in a cleaner living. I have mistaken holistic practices to be an understanding of the entire environment. I've seen that for some people it's just become trendy and it serves the wealthy and narcissistic and self-absorbed. I've learned a lot of hard lessons and some good ones. I've been taken advantage of by people there and people here in the States. Sounds like you think it's okay that you take advantage of these girls because you've been taken advantage of. For me, that's just a part of life. What you do with these girls is not a part of life. It's a part of inequality, and it's been created, and it's not good. I was always given the benefit of the doubt. I don't judge. I'm not going to change because you judge me. Well, you do judge, and you could judge more. You can have discretion with your knowledge and act with some wisdom. We're not talking about prosecution. We're talking about probability. You have direct influence on everyone you meet. I am an example. I made a choice of ethics and forfeit income because of your influence. And I'm sure you've had influence on the little girls you've penetrated. I accept people for their past and, more importantly, their future. You are enabling a problem that these girls have. You are not looking out for their future. You are a voyeur. You are a voyeur. I might not be that person who you first met. I don't go to the Del Rey. I don't bring 3 back. The wild side of me has been thrown out. It doesn't serve me any longer. One thing that has not changed is just like before, I continue to look for people who I can walk through life with. I tend to make friends for life. Why are you seeking relationships from impressionable minds and then saying that these are what you're seeking for life? Sure, sometimes better or closer ones, but for some reason I feel something for someone. I try to keep in touch with them. I counted you in that group until I saw your video. Well, I count you in that group for me too. More on that later. Well, for a novice, I guess maybe meeting someone like you is worse than a bad experience. As a newcomer to the sex trade, you could really dangle a carrot. You could really change her ideas over a period of time. You can help her not work a real job that requires skill. You can help her develop herself to better herself so that she can encourage new men, so that she can take on new men, since you're so kind. Or you could just help her develop the talent to use her vagina and fading looks, to enhance her appearance, to attract more men, to manipulate more men for income, and teach this skill to her children. As children often learn best by example. You could see that coming. Oh, my Lord. Oh. Would it surprise you to know that I still speak with Vivian? I do. I don't send her money, but when she needs a shoulder, and you know with her that's often, we speak. She is a train wreck. She always will be a train wreck. She's everything you speak about in your video. She was crippled long before I met her, and it was by her mother, who pimped her out at 14 to pay the rent to the landlord. Ooh, that is a sad story. Her story just gets worse from there. Yes, inevitably this story will just carry on and get worse. But you know one thing she repeatedly tells me? Again and again for many years? I no longer send her money. It doesn't make you a nice guy for continuing a friendship with her but not giving her money anymore because you're not having sex with her anymore. She tells me I was the best thing to ever come into her life. Well, I'm not surprised. I'm sure you were her biggest, kindest, most consistent income. So why are you impressed by this kind of association? And that she prays to God each night that I will stay in it. I told her I will. She has told me 1,000 times how sad she is and how she screwed me around. And I tell her, I have forgiven you long ago. Elle, life is a never-ending series of choices. I have made mine, some for the better and some for the worse.
The key is don't stop. I've seen people serval and die to fear of movement. I will not be one of those. I keep moving. It's not a bad thing to stop and reflect and look at yourself. I see more people up north that have fear of stopping. If you no longer like my choices, then you have to make one. Someone once told me to live my life if my grandmother was always watching. I guess I'm not exactly doing that while I'm in Costa Rica.
No, you're right. You're not doing that for your grandmother while you're here.
But in my own mind, I don't think I'm doing the worst thing ever.
But your own mind has nothing to do with the reality of consequences.
I have never tried to hurt anyone. I have not lied to them. I guess I never thought about what a 23-year-old woman, girl, would think about in 10 or 20 years into the future.
Right, so you're always thinking about yourself.
I guess I was busy worrying about that for myself. As I sit in a nursing home sucking soup through a straw with a big shit eating grin on my face and all the fun that I've had. I guess the most recent case, I think she was going to say, I got to move my 2 children into a new apartment on my own, and they were very happy for a time. And I said, we are only getting to know each other.
So you think that's a good experience? For somebody to have sex, be able to move their kids into a nice place for a little while, depending on if you like her or not, or how she's able to behave around you and show her character to you. So what you're doing actually is quite manipulative, because you're putting her in the position where she can have something nice for her kids. If she can maintain a nice relationship with you, she might just kind of stay here only for as long as you're giving her money, so she can be happy she's spent this time with her kids and grateful to you. You're such a hero. Well, don't you feel like a hero?
Why did that comment bother you? So I don't know how this will end.
Well, try and imagine ways that it could end.
I never gave it a thought that I might be hurting them. I don't see it that way. That is new food for thought. Al, the new one, she's a good person, an honest person, loving to her children, trying to be the best provider.
She's trying to be the best provider within what she has, but is she? She's setting an example. Really? Being a good example? Because if she's lying to her kids, that's already a bad start.
She has limited options, and as you know, she has made minimal requests of me. I know she will never love me like a husband and wife, but that's not the intended relationship. We both know that, and we're both okay with that. I would never ask her for that, but that doesn't mean there's no relationship. It's just not like the one you think.
That's not your intended relationship, so it's not going to happen.
I will venture to guess, I guess if we continue to see each other, one day she would say, I was happy to have him along for a while. Your one comment in that video could not be more wrong. And I hope it was only your anger or disappointment in me that made you say it. But if you don't think a 23-year-old can teach you something, you have a lot to learn. You may have watched many daytime TV docs.
I haven't had a TV in 15 years.
I have discovered more from babies and goldfish than I've ever from older people. Okay, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but some older people get set in a way. That way might have changed with time, a way that is stale, that has lots of zest for life.
Old people aren't stale. Again, it's about how you look at things, how you want to look at things, how fresh you want to look at things. You're not seeing something new in the eyes of this young girl who's showing you that what she's doing is new. Just taking in what her surroundings is, and she's still developing ways to see that. And it's different actually learning something from an adult or from history, from geography, from culture, from art, from things that you can be exposed to, from people that are knowledgeable, that have spent their whole life understanding things, that you can just get a glimpse to understand what they were talking about. To have a full body, a pool of this kind of information takes time, and people that are really good at certain aspects of this have understood things like certain types of critical thinking, certain types of
negotiation, certain types of communication. Wow, with the big age gap difference between you guys, she doesn't know any of the things that you can draw your memories from, where your brain was formed. You can always learn something new from a new relationship, whether that's with a child or a grandparent or a 23-year-old in Costa Rica. They have had life experiences and most likely have been very different than mine. How foolish to think there's nothing I can learn, adapt, and place into my daily habits. Don't box yourself out of life with a statement like that. Oh, I spend time with children. I love to spend time with children. And of course I learn from them. But that's not like the discipline of learning something. There's learning things. You learn things every day. Every time I look around and I look at nature and I look at the sky and I'm learning things. I'm always learning things. You can always see things new ways. You can always see freshness and youth in everything that you see. That's not what I mean by learning. Learning, there's a discipline to help the mind function in certain ways. And as it's growing, it can develop those neurons to think those ways. If you miss those points, it's pretty hard to go back to the development. So as I said, once the brain is 25 years old, those pathways aren't really being made as much anymore, around 25. So I've taken girls to new places they may never have gone if it wasn't for me, and they have done the same for me. Vivian once took me to a basement in San Jose to the Chinese mafia headquarters to watch a cockfight at 3 a.m. in the morning. Me, a 6-foot-tall, 270-pound gringo, surrounded by 100 4-foot-nothing-tall screaming Chinese men watching 2 chickens tear each other apart.
Oh, God.
Throwing blood all over us.
Oh, God.
Sorry, just don't get that in Chicago. Another brought me to the candlelight bullfight high up in the mountains of Colombia, a mind-blowing experience. Another to a rainforest in midnight to watch the ground move. Yet another. That is what a 23-year-old can teach you. Those are tribal, barbaric experiences. We have grown past that. Do you have any education about or compassion for animals? Hey, I got one for you. If we were like 100 years ago, I would take you to a virgin sacrifice, and wouldn't that be cultural and interesting for you, right? Something that you couldn't experience in Chicago. And we'll see a little bit about tradition and culture. With youth is enthusiasm, energy, and wide-eyed new experiences for both of us. Try to remember the actual act is only a few minutes. There is still 23 other hours of the day to fill, and we do fill them. We have fun, we laugh, we experience. If they were not enjoying the moment, the door was always open for them to walk out. If she was on the phone every 5 minutes to her boyfriend or her babies, I would just tell her to go. It's really that simple. Yes, there is a dirty side to the game, but that's not what I'm all about. I'm not living the Del Rey model. It's not 100 por hora. It's a little more than that. So you're telling me you graduated from the Del Rey and you're now an expert? Yes, it involves sex. Yes, it involves sex. But then again, one way or another, almost everything else does too, doesn't it? You and I both know that you can tell if somebody's enjoying it or not. Pretty tough to fake. Not saying it never happens, but no one is so good they can fake it every time. Now, for the end of your video, you used a phrase that is somewhat known as the end of all goodbyes. Peace out. My understanding of that phrase is that the last of the goodbyes when used in a tone and ending of an angry message. I truly hope it's not what you meant, but from the tone of your video, I fear that it is. You're free to judge me as you see fit. From him. Peace out. But you kind of should know this already. My experience, my experience, my experience. It's all my experience. Life's here for my taking. It's my experience. I do really appreciate your comprehensive and well-written letter. And that's the reason, John, that's the reason why I'm still friends with you.
if you'd like to do something, you know, I need to make some money, and like, other than sucking, you can make money in this town is through sex, so let's talk about it. So that's why I'm bringing it up, and I think that there's a place for it. Hey, if you want to help me, why don't you send me some letters? I really want to talk about the men's point of view and the girls' point of view and my silly point of view, and do some stuff that there's no point of view at all. And I'd like to do some stuff whereby there's some comedy. I have some ideas for some funny skits. So if you'd like to subscribe, then do that, and maybe help these girls too. Wouldn't it be cool if I could go to one and say, hey, instead of going with him for $100, why don't you come with me? I'll ask you some questions. So if you subscribe, maybe you can save a girl. I'm always trying to utilize my skills and the things that I have the ability to utilize, and the things that I can find, and the things that I can reuse and recreate. And I'm always looking to learn new things, and it's been quite a process trying to figure this all out. I've had one problem after the other. And so, anyways, if you want to write me some more of your stories, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much. Bye.